Level 1. $0. You open the account on a Tuesday afternoon, standing at a folding table in the lobby because the real desks are for people who already have money to put somewhere. The banker hands you a packet, 30 pages of disclosures you don't read, and asks if you'd like to enroll in overdraft protection. You say no. You don't have anything to overdraft yet. She nods like she's heard that answer 1,000 times and knows exactly how it usually ends. Your first deposit is $180, 2 shifts at a job that pays $14 an hour. You watch the number appear on the screen and feel something close to relief. The specific kind that comes from a number existing at all. The app sends you a notification. Welcome to your new account. It sounds like a greeting. It functions like a countdown. 3 days later, a subscription you forgot about pulls $9.99. The balance drops to $170. Nothing happens. Because nothing is supposed to happen yet. You are not on anyone's radar. You are a number in a system built to process millions of numbers. And at $180, you are indistinguishable from noise. The bank does not see you. The bank sees traffic passing through a pipe. You go into the branch to ask about a hold on a check, a $60 check from your cousin for babysitting. The teller explains it will clear in 5 to 7 business days. You ask why it takes that long for money that already exists somewhere. She says that's just how it works. You don't push, because pushing at $0 doesn't get you anywhere. And some part of you already knows that. A week later, you're at $40. You buy groceries, $38.47, and the register declines the card. You stand there for 4 full seconds, while the person behind you shifts their weight and looks somewhere else out of politeness. You put back the bread. Nobody at the bank witnesses this moment. Nobody ever will. It doesn't show up in any report they read. It's just something that happened to you. Alone, at a register, because a number was 6 cents short of dignity. That night, you check the app 11 times, as if checking will change what's already true. The balance doesn't move. You go to bed doing math in your head instead of sleeping. The specific arithmetic of survival. What's due? What's coming in? What happens if it doesn't? Level 2. $1,000. You've held this number for 6 weeks without falling under it. And something about the app has quietly shifted. The overdraft warning that used to appear every time you dipped low has stopped showing up as often. Not because you stopped being close to it, because the system has started to trust the pattern more than the moment. You call about a fee, $12, an out-of-network ATM charge you didn't know you'd triggered. The hold music plays for 6 minutes. A representative picks up, apologizes, and reverses it without much resistance. This didn't happen at $180. At $180, the answer was usually no, delivered kindly but firmly, like a rule that couldn't bend. At $1,000, the answer is often yes, quietly, like the system has decided you're worth the $12 in goodwill. You get an email, pre-qualified for a starter credit card, $500 limit, 26% interest. An annual fee of $39 that nobody explains clearly in the subject line. You read it twice. It isn't generous. It's calculated. The bank isn't rewarding you for having $1,000. It's identifying you as someone stable enough to lend to, and charge enough to make it worthwhile on their side of the ledger. Your rent is due on the 1st. Your paycheck lands on the 3rd. For 2 days every month, you live inside a gap the bank quietly profits from, because you carry a small balance on that new card just to bridge it, and the interest accrues daily whether you notice it or not. Nobody calls to explain this. It's written in a paragraph you never opened, in a font small enough that reading it felt optional. You start keeping a mental ledger separate from the app, a private accounting of what's really yours after the fees, after the float, after the 2 days of interest nobody warned you about. This is the first year you understand that a bank account isn't neutral ground. It has a temperature. And right now, it's cold. Level 3, $8,000. This is where something in the machinery starts to notice you as a category instead of a transaction. Your direct deposit has hit the same day every 2 weeks for 11 months. The system doesn't know your face. It knows your rhythm. And rhythm is what banks are built to detect long before they care about anything else about you. The maintenance fee disappears from your statement without a message explaining why. You check the fine print and find the line you missed for years. Waived if average daily balance exceeds $5,000. You cross that line quietly, and the bank quietly stopped charging you for the privilege of banking with them, as if the fee was never really about the account. It was about whether you could be relied on to keep money in it. A real credit card offer arrives. Unsecured. A $3,000 limit at 19% instead of 26%. The difference of 7 points doesn't sound like much until you do the math on what it costs someone with less money to borrow the exact same dollar. The bank isn't lending you money at a better rate because it likes you more. It's lending you money at a better rate because you've become statistically less likely to default. And statistics, not affection, set the price of everything here. You walk into the branch and the greeting changes. Not warm exactly, but present. The teller says good morning before you say anything. It's a small thing. It's also the first time in this entire relationship that you've been acknowledged before you had to ask for something. And you notice it the way you notice weather changing. Quietly, almost without deciding to. Level 4. $30,000. The bank assigns you what they call a personal banker, though you've never asked for one. He calls on a Thursday, introduces himself by name, and asks if you have 5 minutes to talk about your goals. Nobody has ever asked you that question in a financial context before. It feels almost intimate, until you realize the call is scheduled, triggered by your balance crossing a threshold somewhere in their internal system, not by anything about you specifically. You apply for an auto loan. The rate comes back at 7.2%. 2 years ago, at $8,000, a similar loan would have priced at 11%. You didn't become a better driver. You didn't become a more responsible person overnight. You became a smaller risk on a spreadsheet, and the spreadsheet decided you deserved to pay less for carrying the exact same debt. A fee posts incorrectly. $15 for a service you never used. You email your new banker instead of calling the main line. He responds in 90 minutes. It's reversed the same day. No explanation demanded. No form to fill out. No script read back to you. The version of you that existed at $180 would have spent 45 minutes on hold for the same $15, and probably lost anyway. You notice something you can't quite name yet, a discomfort underneath the convenience. The bank isn't better because it became kinder. The bank became more useful because you became more valuable. And those are two very different things wearing the exact same friendly face. Level 5. $120,000. The word preferred starts appearing. In your email subject lines. On the login screen. On the small paper insert that comes folded inside your statement. You didn't request this title. You crossed a number. And the number came with a name attached to it, the way titles in this world always seem to. Your banker starts remembering things you only mentioned once. A daughter's name. A plan to visit family in Ohio in the spring. This isn't accidental warmth. It's trained retention. A system built on the premise that people don't leave relationships that remember them, even when the relationship is priced, quietly, by the institution standing behind it. A pre-approval letter arrives for a mortgage. $380,000. Before you've looked at a single house. The bank has already decided what you can borrow. It's simply waiting for you to decide what you want. The order of operations tells you something true about how this world works. Approval doesn't follow desire here. Desire gets shaped around approval that already exists. You call about consolidating some old debt. The rate offered is lower than anything you've seen before, and it comes without much friction, because the bank has run the math and concluded that keeping your business is worth more than the margin on that one loan. You are being retained, not served. It only looks like service from where you're standing. Level 6. $1 million. The branch experience mostly disappears. Your banker doesn't call from a script anymore. He calls to introduce you to someone from the wealth management division, a woman who flies in for the meeting instead of asking you to come to her. She brings a leather folder with your name embossed on the cover, printed the morning of, and spends 90 minutes asking questions instead of pitching products. At the end of the meeting, she doesn't ask you to sign anything. She says she'll follow up with a plan. The selling already happened, quietly, in the form of attention. And attention at this level functions the way a sales pitch used to function at every level below it. You call about a wire transfer that's stuck. Someone answers on the second ring. The problem is solved inside the same call. No transfer, no hold music, no reference number to write down and repeat to 3 different people. The system that once made you wait a week for a $60 check to clear now moves 6 figures in minutes when your name is attached to it. You attend a dinner hosted by the bank. 8 guests, a private room, a speaker discussing markets you now have money inside of. Nobody at the table mentions fees. Nobody mentions overdrafts or minimum balances or the $12 charge that once took 6 minutes on hold to reverse. Those conversations belong to a version of banking you've technically left behind, even though the institution across the table is the exact same one that once ignored you completely. Level 7, $10 million. You stop having a personal banker. You have what the industry calls a relationship manager. And the word relationship here means something structural, not emotional. He manages fewer than 20 accounts. Yours is one of the 20. And losing you would show up in a document somewhere, with his name attached to a number that isn't yours. The products stop being products. Deals arrive that were structured with your specific situation in mind. Tax timing. An estate question you mentioned in passing. A business you're thinking about starting. Nothing here comes from a brochure. Everything is drafted for one person, which is the definition of a kind of service most people will never experience, even once in their lives. You walk into a branch you've never visited before, in a different city, and somehow they already know your name before you say it. The system has flagged your account across every location that shares the network, not because you're famous, but because your balance has made you a priority worth recognizing on site, before you've said a word. A private investment opportunity is described to you in a conference room with no bank logo on the door, no brochure, no prospectus. The deal doesn't exist for the public. It exists because clients at your level exist, and the room itself is proof of a tier that has no name on any public website anyone can search. Level 8, $25 million. The bank no longer negotiates with you the way it negotiates with everyone below you. It consults you. The chief investment officer wants to know what you think about where markets are heading. The private banking division asks what you'd want to see offered to the next tier of clients coming up behind you, as if your opinion is now part of how the product itself gets built going forward. 3 people inside that institution have careers partially shaped by whether they keep your account. They will never say this to you directly, but the math exists somewhere on a spreadsheet you'll never see. The same kind of spreadsheet that once decided you weren't worth a phone call back. In an entirely different decade of your life, when $15 felt like a real amount of money to fight over. Level 9, $70 million. Something changes here that has nothing to do with service anymore. The bank stops being an institution you belong to, and becomes an institution that partially belongs to you, in the sense that mattered to them. Your capital sits inside their balance sheet in a way that shapes decisions in rooms you'll never be invited into by name, but whose outcomes are shaped by your presence anyway. You no longer have a relationship manager. You have a team, 4 or 5 people whose entire job is anticipating what you might need before you've said it out loud. A tax question gets modeled before you've asked it. A liquidity event across an entire portfolio gets planned around a timeline you mentioned once at a dinner 8 months ago. Nobody is guessing. Everyone is tracking. The private bank's most senior executives know your name without being told, not because a system flagged you, because you are one of the accounts that gets discussed by name in meetings where strategy for the entire institution gets decided, a rounding error to the bank's total assets, and simultaneously one of the reasons certain products exist at all. You could move your money tomorrow, and 3 separate people would fly out within the week, not to convince you to stay out of loyalty, but because losing an account at this level changes numbers that shareholders eventually ask questions about. The relationship isn't warm. It was never warm. It's structural, load-bearing, the kind of thing institutions build entire departments around protecting. Somewhere tonight, someone is standing at a register with $38.47 in groceries and a card that just got declined. They put the bread back. Nobody witnesses it. Nobody at any bank will ever know it happened, because it doesn't show up on any report that matters to anyone with the power to change it. That person is not a different kind of human than the one sitting in a private room somewhere, being asked what they think about where markets are heading next year. They are the same kind of person, standing at a different number, waiting for a system that was never built to see people. It was built to see balances, and it will treat you exactly as well as your balance tells it to. Nothing more, nothing less, nothing personal. The bank does not change who it is at any level. It only changes who it lets you become inside it.